Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. So we're almost at the end of the Cat Who series. There's now just 2 books left. Well, 3 books if you include this one, 2 books after this one. One of them is a cookbook, and the other one is well, we'll get to that when we get to it. This book is a Cat Who sort of book that has almost nothing to do with cats. There are 1 or 2 bits in it with cats, but this is actually a collection of short stories that it bears a little resemblance to, I would say, the tie-in novel from Castle where somebody wrote Rick Castle's novel. The TV show Castle. Anyways, the thing about this is it's a collection of the folk tales that cropped up during the course of the Cat Who series. All of these do appear in the Cat Who books. You will recognize them and think to yourself as you read it, wait, which book did I read that one? Which one was that one in? Which book was this? Because you've read them all before. It takes them out of the Cat Who books, takes them out of the context of the Cat Who book, and makes each of these their own thing. They're all very, very short stories, and they're all folk tales in the vein of Paul Bunyan. They're local, regional stories that are not fantastical tales, most of them. They're stories of things that happened, things that people like to believe happened, things that probably didn't happen, but ostensibly could have. And the book is Short and Tall Tales, Moose County Legends, collected by James Mackintosh Qwilleran. So, in this book, you have a whole bunch of these stories because, let's be honest, there are a lot of stories in the Cat Who series. There are, in fact, 27 short stories in this, and this is not a long book. The final page count on this book is probably, not more than 100 pages. But it has stories such as the story by Burgess Campbell that was just basically a joke, a family joke about the concept of the scamadiddle, which was a not real antique item. You have the true question mark history of skunk water. You have the scratching under the door, which is one of the few stories in this that actually has anything to do with cats at all. And each of these is prefaced by a short little paragraph, again ostensibly by James Qwilleran, on where he sourced this story from. So the scratching under the door is prefaced by, as recalled by Emma Huggins Whimsy, age 89. She was a frail little woman in a wheelchair when I interviewed her at a family reunion. A caregiver had brought her from the senior care facility in order to maintain her record. She had not missed a reunion since the age of 2. Emma's eyes still sparkled with loving memories when she talked about her cat, Pumpkin. And this is a ghost story about a cat that the cat died and then its ghost came back and would warn her about fires and things. Each of these, again, as I said, you'll remember them from the series. You'll remember it and you'll think back and say, which book did I hear this from? And these are all very, very short. These stories don't usually top more than 3-4 pages. they're the kinds of stories that your grandparents tell you about growing up. They're the kinds of stories that they're short family stories. These are not lengthy constructed tales. This is Paul Bunyan folklore. And the thing about this is that these are all fictional stories. All of these are made up. They have the feeling of stories that were not written for the purpose of being in a book, but they are in fact just made up stories for this series. And so there's an unusual sense of push and pull in this, but it's enjoyable as almost a kind of an expansion on the universe, because Qwilleran does publish this book within the context of the series. He does, say, talk about in the series the experience of collecting these stories. And so it's a tie-in collection without being particularly distinct from everything. And I certainly enjoyed it. I mean, that's the thing about folk tales, about these stories that get passed down through families, stories that get passed down through professional storytellers, and these are written in that style, is that these are stories that are written for entertainment. They're written to entertain. And it makes them distinct in some ways from from other stories, from even novels, in that they're based around a concept of a single person telling a story aloud. That you're keeping in mind that reading aloud, that speaking takes longer than reading, by eye. You're taking into account how you tell a story when you're telling it to people in person is different than how it is in a book. But also, most of my reading is done in novel form. I don't read a lot of shorts. Well, okay, I do a lot of reading of fan fiction online. I do a lot of shorts and fan fiction, but fan fiction, being a creature unto itself, literarily speaking, is something that I want to put aside. In terms of book reading, in terms of original fiction, in terms of original writings, most of what I read is in novel form, and novels have to be constructed. Even most short stories, they have to be constructed when written in a way that reflects that you're reading it and not hearing it, in a way that reflects the ability of people to flip back and double check, wait, what did you say 10, 20, 30 pages ago? The construction of a novel is different than oral storytelling, and that's the thing about this book, is it's telling oral stories. And so you have these stories that you have these stories that are just short and concise, and it's intriguing to me. It's intriguing to me how these stories get approached, because this is Qwilleran taking down verbatim, within the context of just how a person tells a story. And so I enjoy these because you're hearing voices in your head very much in a way that very much in a way that you don't when you're reading a novel. In this one, for example, it opens in Matilda, family heroine, why was their surname on her gravestone? And the opening paragraph, Lisa Compton, whose maiden name was Campbell, was one of the volunteers who tidied the historic Campbell burial ground this spring, and she called me with an answer to a question that has puzzled her family in the past. This is the whole story is related by Lisa. And it opens with, do you know the Campbell graveyard south of Purple Point, Quill? It goes back to 1850 and was long ago overgrown. It's somebody speaking. And it's a transcription, so many of these. And so it makes for slightly different reading. It makes for an interesting experience precisely because of that. And it's an experience that isn't even reflected in reading something like the Odyssey or the Iliad, which were both designed for oral storytelling, because, they were. But it's designed for oral storytelling, but it's oral storytelling by people who are not professional storytellers. Some of these people, some of the characters in this are professional storytellers, are people who would be choosing, choosing to make a career of tale telling or public speaking or something of that sort. But most of these are just, this thing happened to me. This thing happened to my grandmother. Here's how she told me it happened. Here's the old family story. And it's an intriguing experience because I think Lilian Jackson Braun has effectively captured that sense of oral storytelling, that sense of collections of memories from older people, from families, and I think it's worth a read through. I think it's a good, what I call, purse book. That is, it's a small book, and it's a book that will fit easily into a bag or purse that you can carry with you, that is written in small bits. So it's a very, very good, I'm bored while waiting in line somewhere that I know is going to take forever. And because it's short bits, you don't have to worry about losing your place in the book or worrying that, you got interrupted in the middle of a scene, because everything in it is short. And if you want to reread a story from the start, it was only 3 pages long anyways, so, rereading it from the start is no travail. And, it's not a cat who book. This is the big thing, is this is a book for people who either want pretend folk tales, which I'm sure there's a market out there for, but this is more extended universe for fans of the Cat Who series. So this is almost like a Cat Who equivalent to Star Trek tie-in novels, to Q and Law, to Imzadi, to War Drums. This is the Cat Who equivalent to Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Blooded, or to Heaven Help Us All Doctor Who's Lung Barrow, which I have never read Lung Barrow, but I have problems with it, having not even read it. In any event, that is neither here nor there. I think I've said everything that can be said about this book. It's a fun little read and a short book, and I think that's everything, so I will see you all next week.